Happy Fri-YAY! I'm so excited to talk to you. So my topic for this Fri-YAY was must-haves for rehearsal. And I think that you know a bunch of these. Like, right, you already know this if you've done, like, you've been in music your whole life, right? So you know that you need to like bring a way to like take notes in your score, right? If it's like you don't forget your Apple Pencil for your iPad, or bring a real pencil, bring a real like writing tool, right, to take notes. Okay, but also like, have water if you need it, warm up if you need it, right? The things that I kind of want to talk about is like must-haves for rehearsal are some of the intangibles, right? Or, oh, maybe it's not so intangible. So when I think about this is like, okay, we all have those rehearsals where it's like, traffic was terrible and you got there and you're like feeling very frazzled, right? So your must-haves for rehearsal are some of these things that you can prepare for yourself when the rest of your day is going horribly wrong, and you need to make sure that you can show up and be your best self, right? So that you can show up and make sure that this rehearsal is such a positive use of time and energy. So obviously, one of those things is like your must-have for a rehearsal is being as prepared as possible, and just whatever you need to do to get there. I've done a lot of these talks on Fri-YAY, but also on the podcast about like practice plans and how to make sure that you are touching all of the areas so that you don't show up to a rehearsal feeling like, oh God, I don't know what's going on, or I am slowing us down. Okay. So I don't want you to be that person, right? But I also, okay, that's just practicing, just making sure that you know how to like show up that way. But then another must-have for rehearsal that I think is really important, you don't even have to tell anybody else about this one, but this one is just for you, is the 2 minutes before you get started, taking a moment to breathe, put yourself in the mindset of having a positive rehearsal. What does a positive rehearsal look like to me? And then I also, this is, I'm going to say this, is setting an intention, right? If you listen to the podcast at all and I say, what's an intention that you're holding yourself? And this also came from when I was teaching my applied lessons. And at the beginning of every single voice lesson I teach, I always say, what are your 2 intentions for this lesson? Because first of all, for teaching, I really wanted to connect with my student that way and hear about what's on their mind. But what it does for you for rehearsal is, what am I bringing to this? What do I need to focus on during this? What do I want to experience during this rehearsal? And I really want you to think about, okay, my intention for this rehearsal is what, right? Don't beat yourself up with this. Don't say like, I don't know, whatever this is, to not suck. Although that is totally an intention that I would give myself. I'd be like, all right, Megan, this your intention for this rehearsal is not to suck. So I get it. I get that then I would reframe for myself and I'd be like, okay, what does that mean to me, right? That means that I'm present. That means that I feel like my brain is moving quickly to like absorb feedback and put it into practice as quickly as possible, right? Is that it's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to repeatedly make the same mistake. Something like that. That's something that I'm going to keep coming back to, like going to continually come back to and say, my intention is to take feedback and implement right away. Maybe something like that, right? Okay. Another one, a must-have for rehearsal that I think is just so necessary is a conscious commitment to taking feedback without defensiveness. Okay, how am I going to take feedback without defensiveness in this rehearsal? That is a must-have. And this can be challenging at first. And I want to take a moment to talk about this. I have seen this play out in a lot of ways. I've experienced this and I've seen it happen a bunch in mentorship situations and tried to like have that conversation. That's why I want to have it right here. So as a vocalist working in chamber music, we're just kind of taught differently. I don't know. So I experienced being in a rehearsal and taking information that was supposed to be for somebody else, but then hearing it and then thinking, oh my God, that's for me, right? Like, I don't know, a little bit of narcissism, whatever. But I've seen other people do this. I really want you to practice being critical and like a critical thinker about what is the information that's actually being conveyed right now from the person who's giving feedback. That's a very big part of taking feedback that's happening in any context and not using it defensively. If somebody else is getting feedback in the rehearsal, ask yourself, like, how can I also think about, can that be useful for me, right? Oh yeah, maybe that helps me think about a few more things here. That's great, sure. But also be aware, this is the part that I'm talking about, which is I have seen young musicians or slightly less experienced musicians in rehearsal interpret feedback that is not for them as for them. So this is really important, especially if it comes to something like technique or whatever, is that if you are in an ensemble and somebody is getting feedback, but it's kind of open-ended about who it is, ask yourself, is that really me? How do I know that that information is for me or if it's for another person? If you need clarity, you can ask after the rehearsal. You can ask at a time where it's not, not taking up from everybody else's rehearsal time, right? This looks like going up to your director or conductor or whatever after a rehearsal and saying, I noticed that you were giving this piece of feedback in this section. I wanted to clarify, would you like me to do something differently here just to make sure? And then they can say, oh yeah, that is for you. Or, oh no, that was for somebody else, the clarinetist, I don't know, whatever. And so I really want you to do that. That next step of taking feedback non-defensively is all pieces of feedback are for my higher good, even if I disagree with them, okay? It doesn't mean if you disagree with the feedback that you are receiving, that happens. That is a very common thing, and it's okay, right? You are saying to yourself and to other people, the feedback that I'm receiving, even if I disagree with it, is for my higher good, and I can interact with this information. What might I need to take away from this? What are some steps that I can take after that? How can I implement this information to maybe try a new thing, maybe learn something else, maybe work together with somebody towards their goal a little bit more, right? It doesn't mean that you need to respond immediately being like, well, I really feel like it's supposed to be like this. Start with, oh, I hadn't considered it that way. Let me give that a try, right? You can always have a conversation about that afterwards and say, I'm thinking that I'd like to keep going in this direction, but I'm really willing. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you want that, right? Why you want that change or whatever. If this is an intonation note and you don't feel like you're out of tune, then double check and then also figure out, oh, might this be some sort of like timbre issue? Do I need to change like a vowel sound? Do I need to like clarify something? Are they hearing some weird overtones? And that is still you. You can still figure that out. You can say, what consonants am I making with the other performers in this ensemble, in which I can like subtly adjust so that we are in a better consonance, or we're in a better timbral tuning situation. I'm just giving examples here. So, okay. That's what I really want to bring to this is like, what are must-haves for rehearsals? The must-have for rehearsal is, how can I get the most out of this time together? And so that we're all achieving the goals that we're setting out to do. First, that's kind of figuring out what the goals are, right? What do you want out of this? What's your intention for this? Also, how are you interpreting feedback so that you can make your experience and everybody else's experience better? So that's the kind of stuff that I want to take away from this. That also means at the end of rehearsal or at any sort of like culmination of a section of rehearsal or whatever, take notes. So you are responsible for taking your own notes. And this is a great time to just have whatever you're thinking about, brain dump it somewhere, right? You cannot possibly be responsible for remembering every single moment that happened in rehearsal. Write it down, right? And that means maybe take notes for other things that happened in rehearsal too, right? Oh, we all decided that that Sandra's going to cue here. Okay, cool. Yeah, write that down. It's not just Sandra's responsibility. It's your responsibility to look to Sandra when that cue is supposed to happen. So that's the part that you need to be remembering and putting into your score or putting into your notebook. And then you've probably heard this before, but at the end of rehearsal, I want you to take your own reflections and say, great, here's the stuff that I thought went really well. Here are some places where I felt like this could have gone better. And then what am I going to do for next time, right? This is kind of like my punch list for next time. Must-haves for rehearsal is a way to take notes about what happened so that you can make plans, like at the end of that rehearsal, for what you want to have happen the next time you're all together, okay? Super, super helpful. You'll make the most of your time together. Because you don't need me to tell you, have water, bring a pencil, like mark your score for your cue notes, whatever. Like, you know that. You know these things, like have a tuner, right? Whatever. Have a way to like give yourself pitches, whatever it is. You know these things, right? But some of these must-haves for rehearsal are, what am I bringing from the inside? What is my inner work that I need to bring for this rehearsal to go really, really well? So, divas, I hope that all your rehearsals go really, really well. I hope that you have everything, every single must-have that you need is all there for you. And I also hope that you stay sparkly inside and out.